All right, here we go. Buckle up. Are you planning on building a climbing wall or a climbing gym and need a little bit of advice on how to start? Or maybe you're not quite confident that your design is going to function the way that you want it to. Thank you for watching the Climber Dad channel. This video, I'm going to talk about the fundamentals that I always ask myself about climbing wall design. Before I start to design a climbing wall, I ask these four questions, the 4 W's. Before I get into that, let me introduce a little bit about myself and tell you who I am and why you might want to listen to me. Now, I am not a structural engineer. I cannot help you with that. But I have designed a lot of climbing walls. I've built over 10 home walls. I've worked for Rockworks. I am working for Rockworks right now. Actually, I'm driving up to build a wall in Pennsylvania. I'm excited about that. That's beside the point. I designed and built my own climbing gym in Clarksville, Tennessee, which was an amazing experience. And I enjoy studying the build and the concept of climbing walls. I am a climbing wall student. I'm not the master. I am not the most informed, but I enjoy being informed and look for that information. So if you think that I might be able to help you design a climbing wall, continue watching this video. If you want to just hang out with me on this road trip, you're welcome to. Make sure you comment down below though, so it's not just one-sided. All right, so let's get started. The 4 W's. I'll tell you right now, and then we'll kind of get into it. We'll circle back around, and then I'm also going to give you a little bit more specifics on some of the design points for a climbing wall. Okay, what, why, who, where, and then back to what. So when you're designing anything, you can follow this example. The first question, what? This, at this point, can be fairly vague, okay? Don't try filling in all of the detail right here, right at the first. Otherwise, you're gonna run into some issues. Very simple, we're designing a climbing wall. Why? Why are you designing a climbing wall? Why do you want to build a climbing wall? What's the purpose? Is it for training? Do you want to get strong so you can crush that V3 project? Or do you want to get strong so you can crush that V15 project? These are things that you need to answer before you start designing the wall. Why? Why is it? Do you want it just for entertainment? Is it to inspire your children to move and play? These are all great reasons why to build a climbing wall. And they're not the only reasons why to build a climbing wall. I'm sure there's many more. Comment down below on what the reasons why you want to build a climbing wall. I would love to see that as well. The next one is who. Who is this for, and what is their skill level? If you're building it for mainly children, it's going to have a different flow. If you're building it mainly for a young adult, it's going to have a different flow. If you're building it for a family, so you're going to have both kids and adults climbing on this, it's going to have a different flow. You're going to have to incorporate a different dynamics into the design. Super important. Okay, where? Where are you going to build this? Is it going to be outdoors? That's going to affect the design. Is it going to be indoors? Is it going to be in a basement or a garage? Is it going to be in a shared space? All of these things will affect the design. You need to have a plan so it flows through the space, especially if it's a shared space. Seems like a pretty cool town. wonder where I am. There are going to be limiting factors on the design when you're designing this for the space, but you really want to focus on the complementary factors. Of course, you're going to be limited on the size, but you want to focus on how you can make this climbing wall complement the space. Really important. It will make your climbing wall so much better if it complements the space instead of fighting the space. Now we're back to what. As we circle back around to this what, now we're into the space where we can get into the details. Okay, so you can start filling in the details here and start really putting pen to paper and designing this wall. Now, it doesn't matter really if you are designing this wall on paper or in a computer CAD program. These questions should be asked to make it a great wall design. Here's some details that you can think of in your climbing wall design. Let's first talk about kickers. Kickers seems to be one of the most asked questions with people that have purchased my climbing wall build plans. How can I modify the kicker? Do I really need a kicker? Okay, so let's talk about that. I would say that the degree of wall determines if you should have a kicker or not. And I would say at 30 degrees, it's becoming more apparent that you should have a kicker. If you're going to build a wall less than 30 degrees, I would start leaning against a kicker. You don't need it with 30 degrees and back. 30 degrees and more, it's a good idea. Now, when you get really steep, it's almost a must. And it's not, I mean, nothing is a must. This is your design. But you are going to benefit from it greatly and wish that you had it if you didn't. When you have a very steep angle, kickers are there so you can place your feet and push off of. You can use that bottom section of the climbing wall. Whereas if it was a really steep angle and you don't have a kicker, that last section of the wall is going to be completely unusable because you can't get your feet in there to use it. So instead of wasting that space, design a kicker into it. That was its original purpose. Okay? It also helps with training and trying to learn proper foot technique. You can put some super, super small, mean footholds on a kicker with an overhanging wall. And you can get that energy, that training that you need for your footwork. But again, it starts to diminish its purpose with 30 degrees and up. Another thing that I would say is avoid using right angles, which I know it's really easy to build and it's really easy to fit into a box, which is where most climbing walls are going to be built, in a box. But it kind of puts you in a corner for a route setting. You can, quite literally and figuratively, it makes it hard to do anything but these stemming moves when you're in a corner, and it can get very old quick if you have a corner, especially in a home wall. Right angles, so lessen those if you can. And let me show you an example. Here is a climbing wall that I've just designed for a friend, and it goes into a corner. We have about 14 feet on both sides that he wants this climbing wall at, and to avoid this awkward corner section, I have designed a bulge that comes up and out. That kind of eliminates those corners. Now, we do have a corner, it's fairly low, it's a right angle. The rest of it though is not right angles, and I think that the wall is going to flow very well in this space and be really usable. Also, if you notice, I have a small section, a very small section that is vertical. For home walls, I would encourage not using vertical space unless you have kids. and little kids. And then try not to use a lot of that vertical space. Kids will be excited and running up and down one lane. And as they get a little bit more confident, they're going to want to have fun by hanging their feet out in the air. Trust me. Woo! Okay, so you can have a little bit of vertical, but try to change it up and have some angles. Now, with this climbing wall, you can see over here on the right side, I have designed a 30-degree wall, and that is fairly wide and it doesn't have a lot of angle change to it. The reason why it doesn't have a lot of angle change to it is so we can diversify that space and change it periodically with volumes. Volumes are going to refresh your climbing surface and change that so you can change that when it starts to feel old. You can move a volume around and reignite that joy in climbing, because once you've climbed on a surface for a long period of time, it can get a little bit old. So there are some design techniques that you can use in designing your climbing wall. Let me know if you like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Go to that comment section and let me know what you think. What did I miss that's super important about the fundamentals of climbing wall design? And I will see you next time right here on Climber Dad. Hopefully I'm still on the right track. Better check my map.